Alright, we got no intro. Hello, welcome back to JamPack'd / Streamer News. I'm experimenting with putting that old show title in the title to see if it makes a difference for viewership, because streams have been kind of weird the past little while. Welcome to the stream. Is CES contagious? Yes. Yes, it is. Hopefully everything is working here. It's been a while. I'm not really set up for this, but it was CES week, which is the yearly Consumer Electronics Showcase, I believe it stands for. Big show where a bunch of new tech gets showcased and announced. I did go in 2020, and I'm so glad I don't have to cover it, like, haven't had to cover it since, but it was a lot of fun. I do want to go back at some point. I think everything's working, though. I think everything's working. I hope so. I seriously hope so, because I'm excited to chat with you all. I'm excited to make sure everything's going. By the way, if you wish to support the channel, I just wanted to say that the best just like Twitch sub equivalent that you could do would be on Discord, discord.gg/eposfox. That we have Discord server subscriptions enabled, and of those kinds of subscriptions, that will most directly contribute to me. And we should have a little alert that pops up. I have a bot set up. It's custom made by one of our Discord members. It worked last time I tested it. I hope it still works now. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that in the chat. I am streaming over there as well. I need to go ahead and ping everyone. This is first stream in a little bit. Live on YouTube, Twitch, and in voice. There we go. Good enough. I'm going to include Discord in my multi-streaming from now on to also help include the alerts and things like that. We are testing a lot of stuff. CES with the worker bee poggers. Oh, this is the King Bee 2 microphone, by the way. It is another large diaphragm condenser. I think it's large. It sounds amazing. But yeah, I think everything is working. Welcome. So, like I said, CES is the Consumer Electronics Showcase. All the tech companies announce a lot here. There is another one. I forgot the exact name. I want to say Computech. I want to say that's it. In Shenzhen. Or Taiwan. I think it's in Taiwan. I don't pay much attention to that one. That one's usually more like back-end architectural stuff. But this is where the consumer electronics get announced. And so there is a lot to talk about today. You may have a little bit of crackly audio. Hopefully it's tolerable. I am still having a ton of weird DPC latency, which is like audio driver latency issues on my Threadripper Pro workstation. It went away for like a month or two, and now it's magically back. So I'm going to have to do a full reformat, Windows reinstall, and that is like a week's worth of downtime, so I just haven't gotten to it yet. But hopefully it's okay. I don't know why it's showing up again all of a sudden, but yeah. Where do we get folders for Discord servers? You just, like, drag them on top of each other, and it'll make a folder. What office chair are you using? Yeah, it's the Autonomous Ergo Chair 2. Alright, we're just gonna... Actually, I do have a couple little bits of housekeeping, I guess we will roll through here. All of my graphics are gone. Okay, never mind. We're not gonna do that. All my graphics are gone. Alright, we do got a little bit of housekeeping to talk about here. I just wanted to first give a huge thank you for all of the support in 2022 on my side channels. This is the first year that I've actually successfully managed to launch side channels and get good results with them. And ooh boy, has it been great. So I just want to do a quick brief review. I do have a video on lost saves coming about it specifically, but just as, you know, just to acknowledge, Lost Saves is my more kind of nostalgia-focused gaming channel where it's about the fun. It's not about critical game reviews. It's not about, you know, a whole lot of stuff like that. It's purely just, we're having fun with the games. There's going to be some essays about older games like I did with Call of Duty 4 in 2022. I'll do some more of those this year. Just stuff I'm having fun with, and specifically trying to avoid being locked into any sort of box when it comes to just playing a specific game or, you know, being stuck in a specific type of format. And we just reached last night the ability to apply to the YouTube Partner Program and get monetization, which is absolutely huge. I incredibly appreciate it. And we also launched this one launched literally like 1 year ago, almost to this day. In about August and September, we launched Analog Dreams, which is my arts and crafts, glitch art, and AI art channel. It's mostly about AI art at the moment, but I have been redoing my entire studio to do more actual art and craft kind of videos. And that thing has been blowing up lately. You all are amazing. And it's actually a lot more viable to make content for in terms of like ROI than Epos Vox is. And so things are going to change a little bit this year because this channel has been just doing insanity. So again, thank you so much. This is the first time in my career pretty much that I've been able to really like create diversified channels that I can focus on for my different ADHD rabbit holes. Because I have shifting focuses and shifting interests all the time, and I get burned out on focusing on the same thing, like streaming or, specific tech things over and over and over. And having these different channels allows me to, when I'm just interested in a specific thing, focus on that specific thing, make a bunch of content for that channel because it's still contributing to things, and then shift back when I'm able to focus back on tech or on art or whatever. Like, I can bounce back and forth and do so more sustainably, and that is huge. So I just wanted to give a huge thank you for that because honestly, it is game-changing for me. I also wanted to highlight that Backing Track has a new single out. The Slayer is now available for streaming on Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music, all of that goodness. And that is the first single from the Slayer Wars album, which is coming later, I believe later this month. Freaking awesome. The track is amazing. It's a lot more hardcore than, say, the synth stuff that we've had, but we got some pretty good plans for 2023. Just wanted to highlight that we do have more music coming. Again, that's backingtrack.gg. Free music for you to use in your videos, streams, and so on. The downloads are available on our Discord server, and you can stream it anywhere you like if you want to play it in your stuff. You don't gotta give credit, but if anyone asks, you want to tell them where you got it from, always appreciated. Last little bit of housekeeping. The good people over at Corsair, Origin, Elgato, whatever combination you want to call them, sent over the Voyager laptop with the Stream Deck keys, and they even put my freaking banner on it, which is insane. I'll be doing a sponsored video for them about that, so there's your disclosure. I mean, it'll be in the video too, but but this thing is actually, like, they're not sponsoring me to talk about it here. This is just my first impressions before we get to a real video. Aside from having my logo on it, this thing is pretty sick. It has a 2560 by 1600 16:10 display, and 16:10 has always been my preferred aspect ratio, and I've been devastated that it doesn't really have a bigger presence in bigger computer monitors. So 16:10 at 240 hertz, and then it's got this weird touch bar action going on, which actually has Stream Deck buttons. Now, they're not screen-backed buttons like the actual Stream Decks, which is unfortunate, but they are touch capacitive buttons with a little indicator screen for like battery life and stuff. This is very resemblant of the CyberDeck custom laptop build that I'm actually in the progress of working on with those kinds of things. So that's kind of amusing. And for what it is as a gaming laptop, it's kind of big, but it's not a tank. Like, I've been sent a couple of those MSI Titan laptops with like 3080 Ti's and stuff like that, and those things are massive and mostly just desktop replacements. Whereas while still big, this one is more in the form factor of an Ultrabook. So I think for my work purposes, this is going to go in my bag. The only problem you might run into is between the 16:10 display and then the bar still being above the display is very tall. Some of your laptop sleeves and pockets may have issues. But overall, it's got it's got USB 4, card reader, lots of ports, dedicated charger that doesn't use USB, and fully upgradable inside. So wild stuff. Like I said, we'll have a sponsored video on it, but it just blew my mind, and I didn't expect... I've had it sitting in a box for a couple months and then opened it a couple weeks ago and felt bad that I hadn't opened it yet because we were waiting on the video to make progress. And felt bad because they completely freaking skinned it up for me, which is awesome. And it's got a fingerprint reader and Windows Hello built into the camera. It's a laptop webcam, so it's whatever. But it's got Windows Hello, so instant sign-in, which is awesome. And I did see some Reddit threads of some people who managed to get pretty much everything working under Linux, even the touch bar with the right, like, hacky workaround. So that was pretty exciting because I would love to dual boot this with like Fedora or something if I don't lose all the functionality. Especially because it has a MUX switch, so it switches between the Radeon or the Ryzen APU that's built in, and then it has a Radeon 6800M. So it has a dedicated GPU for actual hardcore gaming, and it has a MUX switch to kind of switch between them. That kind of thing doesn't always work on laptops that are, especially brand new ones, when you switch over to Linux. And so someone on Reddit had pretty much everything working. So at some point I'm going to follow that guide so I can do that, because that would be rad. All right, let's roll into the topics now that that is out of the way. I don't have my graphics, so we're just gonna, you know, whatever. First and foremost, we are gonna cover streamer gear and then move on to displays, and then we have a bunch of miscellaneous topics to talk about, and of course AMD's and Nvidia stuff. With streamer gear, Razer has announced at CES and showcased a Razer Kiyo Pro Ultra that has a supposedly bigger sensor than the Elgato Facecam Pro. I meant to pull this up beforehand, but that doesn't sound any bigger. Like, I had this noted in my review because the Facecam Pro, the Insta360 Link, and one other camera all had the exact same sensor, same size, same everything. I know they specified it in the reviewer's guide because they wanted it talked about. Technical specs. What is the sensor? It does not say. I have it in my review. The articles are saying it's bigger than the Elgato Facecam Pro. I don't know that it is, realistically. But it is a 4K 30, which is fine. You don't need a 60 FPS webcam. 4K 30 webcam, has AI-powered face tracking, which everything has. The HDR mode, which is just the dual exposure mode that the other Razer camera had. $300. Apparently it's already available, so I'll reach out to them if I can get a review unit. I can't be swinging random $300 at webcams or whatever. Has f1.7 aperture on the lens, which is slightly wider, you know, faster rather than the Elgato, but on a webcam size that doesn't really matter. But realistically, it should perform about the same as the Elgato or the Insta360 Link, which are both beautiful 4K webcams. The Nexicos are good too. 4K 30 uncompressed. Wait, no, it doesn't say uncompressed. 4K 30 or 1080p 60. Using a cutting-edge processor to transcode it to 4K at a cinematic 25. What the hell? A cutting-edge processor to take 1080p 60 up to 4K 25. I don't know what they're saying in Tom's Hardware. It's CES coverage. Everyone's busy. They probably didn't intend to say that. But you can do 4K 30, 1080p 60, 1440p 30, blah 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 blah, which is pretty cool. Can stream. It looks like the software will actually give you ISO and shutter speed settings, which Elgato is pretty much the only one who does otherwise. The Nexico stuff does. I have an overhead one. The Nexico stuff does as well, but yeah. It does have a bigger sensor, but it does 4K 30 and 4K 24 uncompressed. Does it though? This doesn't actually say that. I thought I read it, but then I'm not yeah, it doesn't say anything in this post about it. If it can do NV12 4K 30, like actual uncompressed 4K 30, that is huge. That would be a big deal. If it's just JPEG, then that's what all the other webcams does, and that's probably what it is, because these are all limited to 5 gigabits per second, even though we're on 10 and 20 gigabit per second USB 3 points down. There's a popping sound coming from your mic. It is DPC latency. It's a little staticky bits from audio driver latency. A big problem with my Threadripper Pro workstation. Work in progress. Don't have a fix for it yet. Hopefully it's tolerable as we get through the news. Everyone else said it was fine. So this is exciting. Somewhat exciting. It's hard because I don't want to... When I cover stuff like this, I don't want to feel like I'm unfairly, like... How do I want to word this? Dumping on a specific company for something that everyone is doing. So, like, I personally don't find this very exciting at all, because I already put out a video with like 6 other webcams that are basically the exact same webcam as this. That's not Razer's fault. Razer is just catching up with the competition. What I find not exciting is that so many products now are built around the same concept, and we're going to talk about talk about this more with Cooler Master stuff. We're going to talk about in a minute, but most companies at the moment with a lot of their streamer products are just re-releasing the same thing everyone else is, and that's not super great. Like they all have the same product, but like I don't find that very innovating, and especially with Razer, they frequently just kind of make what everyone else has with their software attached, and most of Razer's software isn't great. They also did the Loop Deck Live. I think they did. Like everyone wants me to review the Razer Stream controller, and it's literally just the Loop Deck Live with their name on it using the Loop Deck software. Like that kind of stuff, I feel like that just adds noise to the market and confuses consumers rather than adds innovation to the market. So that, again, a bunch of other companies release the same webcam that Razer has, so it's not Razer's fault specifically. I don't want to dunk on them, but I'm going to say the same thing about Cooler Master's capture card in a minute. Quite surprised AVerMedia hasn't dropped a camera to match the Facecam Pro. Honestly, the 515 is great. Like, they don't... Elgato's autofocus isn't great on that, so autofocus isn't even a huge selling point on the Facecam Pro. No one needs a 4K 60 specific webcam. You don't need a 60 FPS camera for anything but sports. Don't bother. So... They already had two cameras technically that matched the Facecam Pro, the 513 and the 515, both of which I've reviewed. Like, they don't need to release a new one. So that's just my take on it. Razer cams were called decent but crap autofocus. I don't know that they fixed it with the Kiyo Pro. I know they tried putting out a firmware update for it, and then it started breaking webcams supposedly, so they took it away. And then I think they re-released, like they put out a new hardware revision of it that supposedly had that fix involved, but from what I've heard, it's still not like that much better. So I don't know. 4K 30 seems sad for what it is. I mean, it's not. That's the standard format right now. We don't really need more, especially out of a tiny sensor. Like, sure, it might be one of the biggest webcam sensors, but it's still a tiny webcam sensor. Like, when we start getting full 1-inch or micro 4/3 sensors on webcams, freaking sign me up. I think Zcam is actually doing something like that. They were trying, Zcam is a camera that makes super cheap like cinema cameras, and their support and their software dev and stuff like that isn't always super great, but they were trying to do a webcam. Nothing's showing up as on Google. I think they were trying to do a little webcam box that was just a micro 4/3 sensor hooked up as a webcam, but I'm not seeing it. It is so hard. Whenever they announce something, it's like impossible to get a hold of. I've had tons of issues where they agreed to let me review stuff and then just ghosted me and blah, blah, blah. But I think they're the only ones that was really trying it. Anyway, Cooler Master is also getting back into streaming products. So they had a brief stint with streaming with what they called the Stream Engine, which was a rebadged, like A10 and some other company had the exact same product, and it was just a mixer that you used with your iPad, and it was very, very weird. I made a video on it. It was really goofy, wasn't worth anything. Like, very few people could get real use out of it. Cooler Master is getting back into it with their own products. So here they have the Stream, I forgot what it's called, the Stream Lucid, Lux, and Origins. And the Lucid is a microphone. It looks kind of like the HyperX Quadcast or Procast. That kind of RGB behind the grill thing. Kind of cute. Their little minimal logo. It's fine. It's just a USB-C condenser microphone. It has 2 polar patterns instead of like 4, which is fine. You only need the, 99% of people only need the 1. So it's all right. Should sound fine. Like, this is one of those things where companies are trying to build out their ecosystems, but there's going to be nothing individually like selling other than the look about this mic over any of the other similar USB mics at this point. Then there is the Lux. This one is the exciting product. This is effectively a Keylight clone. I don't know why all the product photos only have the back when I want to see what the front looks like. So this is very similar to like the Elgato Keylight Air, the little square one. Only they actually have physical controls, which other than the ring light, Elgato just refuses to add. That's not true. The Keylight, the super tiny Keylight, the mini or whatever, that thing has physical controls because it's basically like a little aperture AMRAM light. But Elgato's bigger key lights do not have physical controls, and that drives me nuts. This one does. It also supports both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, so you can use it presumably over some desktop software that they haven't released yet, or with Bluetooth on your phone, which is great. It is still a white light, which is fine, but the cool part here is that they have a magnetic mounting system to add gels and other filters and things like that, which is huge. I actually had a video in the pipeline that never really came out about adding your own gels or grids to your Elgato key lights, which I still need to do on this one to get better results out of them or add colored lighting to them or whatever. So the fact that they have this system built in when I have been asking Elgato for it over and over and over, I am so stoked for this. I really hope they send it. And then this is what I was talking about with the Razer thing. This is Cooler Master's capture card, which is the same capture card that ASUS released, that EVGA released, that I guess kind of Elgato released, that AVerMedia released. It is 4K 30, 1440p 60, 1080p 120, HDR sort of supported, HDMI 2.1, USB 3, 5 gigabits per second. This one doesn't mention VRR yet. It is the same capture card that everyone else is rebranding right now. And I get that companies need to just get their initial offering to see if they're going to continue offering a type of product, but it is so exhausting covering the same product on repeat over and over and over. There were so very few capture cards to cover in 2022, when it's typically something I make the most videos on in a year. There were so few capture cards to cover in 2022, and they are all, like 90% of them were the exact same capture card. It's just, So hopefully they learn from it, and like it provides the data they need or whatever, and then they make something good, or maybe they have some cool software feature to ask. Nothing on this mentions audio, so I think audio chipsets are still hard to get with all the shortages going around, and so I don't think it's going to have any audio inputs, because crap, what was it? The NZXT, they also made one. The Signals, those didn't have full proper audio support either because of those kinds of shortages. Like, everyone's chopping off that useful feature. I know you have a video on AV1 already, but do you plan to do more AV1 videos? Of course. Always. Always, always. Found the Kiyo specs on the sensor. Yeah, that's all the stuff that was in the audio, or in the article. That's the exact same thing the article said. But is it better than those $10 USB capture cards? It is. Speaking of capture cards, technically it's not... I do have more... I want to show you something. This entire box, this massive box, is capture cards on my to-do list for review. We're not unboxing them right now. Most of them are already unboxed because I documented their the audio devices and stuff for the OBS 29 update, so the audio would work by default. But those are like mostly the budget capture cards and stuff that I still have to review. They're mostly, but again, so many of them are the same and stuff that I just didn't get around to it. And I gotta, with every capture card I buy like this, so like pretty much everything in that box, that is like 20 something capture cards I bought with my own money. And then the problem is because they're not new products, or they're not products that will get a ton of views, they get deprioritized a bit in my, video pipeline, because other stuff comes up, big launches come up, and I gotta prioritize what's actually gonna sustain my business. And so many of the cheap ones that you all recommend I go out and buy, and then I go to cover, when I go to cover them, they don't exist on Amazon anymore, because they're these fly-by-night Chinese sellers that just release 100 of them or 1,000 of them and then stop selling them. And so I have to go through before I even test them, once, they come up in the order of operations. Before I even test them, I then got to go make sure that they're on Amazon and or eBay or AliExpress, and then make sure that it looks like they're still going to be there by the time my video comes out, and blah, blah, blah. So that's part of the reason some of those more budget capture cards get kind of backed up a bit. A couple people on Twitch pointing out that displays are the big thing this year. We have a whole displays section coming soon. Don't worry. We're getting there. All right, so that's Cooler Masters gear. Next up, we have Audio Technica. I think they announced this before, but they're talking about it again. The Audio Technica StreamSet, which is an M50X headphone. So I got excited for this because this is an Audio Technica. They're calling it the first streaming headset. It's not. But I got excited for this because I thought it was going to be a kind of more streamer adapted version of their broadcast headset line. So both Audio Technica and Sennheiser make broadcast headsets, like really good ones. That are used on like sports events and things like that. And I bought one of them. I need to find it. So I reviewed the BPHS one, which is Audio Technica's, a while back. The headphones were super uncomfortable. I hate the M50X design. Like, they're uncomfortable as hell. The pads are crap. It feels awful to wear, but the capsule was awesome. And then I bought the mic where I had to solder on my own XLR end for the Sennheiser one, because they stopped sending out products to me after sending me tons of products and being friendly. Their PR guy left, and they stopped sending me anything but earbuds. And I wanted to cover them, and just haven't gotten around to it yet because the market for it's a little different. But I was hoping this was like a streamer version of that. It's not. It's the M50X, which again, I think is a completely overrated, don't buy it set of headphones, personally. And it's all plastic. But then the capsule is a cardioid condenser capsule inspired by the legendary AT2020. But it's that small and on a headset. So I'm going to say big doubt. It does still have the double, you can see the double wire here, which indicates to me it might still be an XLR end on the other end, in which case they might still be doing it right. Obviously the plug type doesn't dictate the microphone quality, but like they might be doing a good job here. I'm nervous. I'm nervous that it'll be cheap. Especially because Logitech did a similar thing with like, we attached a blue microphone on the headset and it was, sure, blue may have technically made it, but it wasn't very good. I'm going to reach out, hopefully try to review it, because I love Audio-Technica's actual broadcast headsets. So I'm very excited for that. And then Roland, another music company, also announced a streaming specific product, which is the gaming audio mixer, the Bridgecast. This thing definitely looks like a Go XLR. I'm glad we're finally getting like more Go XLR-esque style mixer competitors. On the back here, we have USB. We have a kind of toggle switch setup to switch between PC or console and mobile connectivity for that USB plug, which is fascinating if it'll work on your Xbox and things like that. I wish it was both. I do have that Lewitt mixer that we reviewed that looked like we unboxed, we haven't reviewed yet, that looked like the dual disc that we still need to review. That one had dual USB host to use on consoles and PC, which should be awesome. But then you've got power. If you are running it from console, you'll probably need auxiliary power over USB. You've got line out 3.5 mil, aux in 3.5 mil, 3.5 mil headphone jack or headset jack, which is interesting. XLR mic. So you're still very limited on features in terms of inputs, but it's got some mic effects. You've got the mixer things. Instead of faders, it's using dials, which is okay. Remains to be seen how much you get in terms of submixes and things like that. Like I said, I will reach out. I would love to review this. I love that we're getting more stuff like this, especially from kind of bigger companies. Lastly, in the streaming gear space, before we get to displays, that goodness, if you missed it, I posted a short about it. The AVerMedia Live Gamer Ultra is getting variable refresh rate support, like all the other capture cards that released the past couple years. I'm surprised that this one is because it's so old, but they have an open beta right now where you can test it and you can even get a chance to win a like webcam and stuff, which is pretty rad. But you can test it, give feedback, but it should support VRR from your consoles, which is pretty neat. It won't support G-Sync, but it might work with FreeSync. Your mileage may vary, but it's cool that VRR is getting both normalized and added back in to these older products, which is what I love to see. So that's it for streaming related specific gear. Wanted to address a comment in chat. Did you stop posting on TikTok? I uninstalled TikTok very early into 2022. TikTok is a terrible platform. It is specifically designed to abuse your FOMO and your dopamine press button thing. It is basically a slot machine. It is the gambling of content. It is completely unhealthy, and there is continued article after article coming out about how they use the app to spy on journalists or to spy on people or to use your data for this. It is not safe. It is not healthy, and I have completely uninstalled it. So yeah, I stopped posting. I don't think anyone should use it. It is a terrible place to be. It is a terrible place just to watch content, like the content viewing experience. It's good for like a mindless scroll, turn into a zombie, but it's not good to actually find good content, which sucks because there's a lot of people who only post on there and who have found their voice only on there, and I can't watch them anywhere else. But both as a creator and a viewer, TikTok is incredibly unhealthy, and I would encourage anyone looking to make a New Year's resolution, looking to make their life better, be more productive, be more sociable, whatever, just get rid of it. Seriously. Like, I don't want to be that person, and I spent like 3 years trying to understand TikTok before I got into it, and then got very obsessed with it because I figured it out and thought it was really cool. But I'm back on the you just should never touch it thing. Like, you shouldn't. It's a bad idea. All right. Let's talk about displays. So many freaking displays came out this year, or were announced here at CES 2023. And frankly, I probably don't even have all of them covered here. First and foremost, ASUS running with the first announcement that I saw, and the, highest spec pushing one, in that they have a new ROG Swift Pro monitor that does 540 Hertz. Now this is a 1080p 24-inch panel. It is a TN panel. It's a new esports TN panel for whatever that's worth, but it's still TN. It's not going to look great. It's purely for esports people at the moment, and it has G-Sync, it has NVIDIA Reflex, all that stuff. And you might be thinking, well, that's dumb. I can't run games at it. I don't play esports. I don't want 1080p. I don't want crappy TN panel. That's fine. But what this is both kind of Nvidia, they are very much backing this push, as well as the monitor manufacturers, trying to get to the point that monitors basically run at 1000 hertz. I think they see 1000 hertz as kind of the finish line, and that is the point where we can run any arbitrary frame rate and have low response time and latency in the long run. It will evenly divide for PAL content, for NTSC content, for movies, TV shows, 60 FPS, 120 FPS. All of that will be able to go into it. And you'll be able to set any arbitrary refresh rate below that so that all content can look smooth. You can have VRR that adapts to everything. And 1000 hertz is basically the refresh of the human eye. It's not that simple, but 1000 hertz is where you're getting as realistic to real time physically as possible. And so both Nvidia and ASUS are kind of rushing towards that direction. And while it looks silly in the moment, the goal is not to run games necessarily there. For the esports monitor, yeah, you're trying to run CSGO at 600 FPS or Siege or whatever and hit that. It's fine. In the short term, this is dumb. Most people aren't going to buy this. Most people shouldn't buy this. And frankly, LCD is dead. LCD is a dead technology now, and LCD is a terrible technology for high refresh rate stuff other than this experimental testing ground. Because once you get past 240 hertz, most people, even the best of the best, stop being able to truly see a difference in refresh rates. But you're not supposed to see a difference. The point is actually to allow you to have better response times and motion clarity and lower input latency. You can have improved gaming performance, like your actual skills, due to higher refresh rates, even though you can't see the difference. Like, it still has an impact, even if you can't see it. The problem is, LCDs can't deliver that kind of motion clarity and that kind of response time. It just can't. This has been shown over and over, including in my videos. OLED gets way closer. CRTs are way better for it, but those are dead as well. But LCDs just can't do it. But what this is these companies really pushing to get the controllers, to get the rest of the pipeline down and targeted at esports people now, so that when they can bring it to OLEDs, and whatever modern technology will fit that, it's good to go. And so I don't expect to hype anyone up for a TN monitor that runs at refresh rates that you can't really game at, because you don't care. But the progress being made here and the implications this will have in 5 or so years is awesome. And I am super stoked, especially because we're already getting higher refresh rate OLEDs, which we will get to. I can actually pull up that one next since it's ASUS. Anyway, ASUS actually has a 240 hertz OLED now. 1440p, 27 inches, 240 hertz. This is what I want. This is going to take, if I can ever get my hands on it, the Alienware ultra-wide QD OLED off my desk. Because I want OLED with high refresh rates, but I also want 16:9. Samsung announced a bunch of new crazy OLED monitors, but they're all ultra-wides, because what they're doing is they're taking TV panels and chopping them into halves or thirds and selling them as super expensive gaming monitors, which is saving them on R&D and also giving them tons of ROI, because now they're selling, instead of one display, 2 or 3 displays and selling them for more. So I hate that practice, but I love that we're finally getting high refresh rate 16:9 OLEDs. And this is the future. This is where things are going. The displays look infinitely better. The response times are crazy. Both LG and ASUS have 240 hertz OLEDs announced, and they both cite 0.03 millisecond response times. And I believe that. This is the first time where I believe that a manufactured spec input lag or response time is going to be accurate, because OLED is already so close at lower refresh rates. And this is what I was talking about of the difference of LCD, is like my 120 hertz OLED has lower input latency than a 240 hertz LCD, and even then a 360 hertz in most cases. So that lower refresh rate doesn't matter because the actual input lag is better. Double that to 240 hertz, and I would imagine the input latency is going to be what they say it is. Like, it may not be exactly that, but it'll be damn close. Like, it'll be one of the lowest input latency experiences you could possibly get. 0.03 may be a little too unrealistic, because that's basically what a CRT is, but it's going to be 1 millisecond or less. And actually 1 millisecond or less. Not this 1 millisecond gray to gray response time, but the actual response time is like 5 or 10, which is what most LCDs are. This is going to be actual. I'm freaking stoked, y'all. So I literally just redid my desk in the house with a dual monitor arm to get the Alienware ultra wide and then my 240 hertz Samsung, which I don't want anymore. It's crap, but you know, as my second monitor up above it. And now I feel like I'm gonna have to redo it because I want to do everything I can to get this ASUS in my hands because this is it. This is where monitors are going. There is just don't buy an LCD. Like unless you need to buy a monitor right now and you need to buy it for $100 or $200, just wait. Wait till the OLEDs come down because you can already get some of the good OLED TVs or displays like the Gigabyte Aorus FO28U or whatever that Will, my community manager, talked about in our favorite tech video and on a couple JamPack'd in the past. That has gone on sale repeatedly for $700 and $800, which is reasonable for a high-end monitor or display. So we're getting there. This is freaking amazing. Thank you for the sub, ImiCat. All right, so that was ASUS's display. Dell went in a different direction. Dell decided to stick with LCD to compete with Apple's Pro displays and release a 6K monitor that's actually higher than 6K. It's like a few hundred pixels higher than 6K at 6144 by 3456 resolution. But it's still an LCD. It's a 32-inch monitor. It's using IPS black, which is supposed to have higher contrast, but it's going to have crap HDR performance due to the blooming because of dimming zones and all of that. It's still not going to have the same, you know, same contrast as IPS. The typical peak brightness is 450 nits, and HDR gets to 600 nits. That's not a great HDR experience. I don't see the point in this other than the flex. Like 6K resolution honestly doesn't help anyone. Like it's not, there's no use case that benefits from it. Like sure, if I had one landed on my doorstep, I would, well, I don't have room for a 32-inch secondary monitor at the moment, but if I did, I would use it as my secondary monitor, crank up the DPI scaling in Windows to like 200 or 300%, and use that for screen captures for tutorials because it would be freaking beautiful having that much pixel density for screen captures, especially when I zoom in on little details and all of that. But realistically, like I fail to see a single use case that buying this over ASUS's OLED Pro Art that I have right here in front of me, or you know any other OLED or QD-OLED monitor at 4K would do. Like I fail to see it. It's not going to be better for color grading. It's not going to be better for pretty much anything else. I don't know. I'd just buy more CRTs. Yeah. The 8K Dell monitor is all you need. That thing sucked too. 8K is kind of dead. We got more monitors though because, oh, that's a gaming laptop. I copied the wrong link. No. There it is. So Alienware wasn't going to be beat by ASUS, and they actually introduced a 500 hertz monitor as well, which is very exciting. Now this one is still LCD, but it's IPS instead of TN. So ASUS's was TN, which is like taking the worst monitor type and then the worst panel of that monitor type. Alienware's is IPS, so it'll at least look nice. It'll have nice colors. It'll have nice, you know, angles or whatever, but it's still a 24-inch 1080p monitor. So if you're an esports gamer, awesome. If you're anyone else, again, this is more about the future that it's going to bring to us than the actual value of gaming at 500 hertz right now. But regardless, I'm exciting. Someone asked the exact model of the monitor that I have. It is the PA32DC, and you want an affiliate link, I can give you that as well. Here it is on Amazon. If my copy paste will work. ASUS PA32DC, and here it is on B&H. BH. Oh, I don't have the. Hold on. I don't have the. B&H's affiliate program doesn't have a Firefox extension, only a Chrome extension. So I still have to keep Chrome installed to like use a ton of extensions because they don't exist in Firefox for some reason. But it is this monitor. It is super expensive. But it is the ProArt PA32DC. So I even previously covered the PA32UC, and then they've had a bunch of them since. There's like a UCG, UCGX, blah, 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 blah. I didn't like at my apartment setup when I had a shallower desk setup. I didn't like the 32 inches in size because I was actually getting vignetting because I was sitting too close. And this setup, 32 inches is okay. But I still honestly didn't like the blooming and the HDR performance on those. And I was going for HDR. Now, at the time, I ended up going with the Dell UP2718Qs, which were the best HD monitors at the time. They were still LCD, of course. And then I ended up never really doing much with HDR with it because Windows 10 HDR implementation, and older, of course, sucks. Windows 11's is a lot better. And the act of making HDR content is still a mess. The OLED, however, makes this a lot better, and it's been a great monitor so far. So I haven't reviewed it yet, but like, it's beautiful. The only complaint I have is it has a lot of like panel preservation tech built in, which involves, excuse me, goodness, some degree of auto brightness and things like that. And I don't notice it most of the time, but when I put up a full screen like white image, if I like look off to the side of the monitor, sometimes there's a little bit of a flicker, like almost like a CRT running at 60 hertz when, you know, if you run it higher, you don't see the flicker. At 60 hertz, you do. If I have a full white thing on it, there's a little bit of a flicker that just bugs me, but it's to preserve the panel. Like, it's a good thing. I don't want it to go away. It's not a real complaint. It's just the only weird thing that I've noticed because my other OLEDs don't really do that. But I also don't use my other OLEDs as a monitor, so maybe it would. I don't know. I know Barnacle had a ton of issues with the auto brightness stuff on the C1s, so I don't know. I want an Odyssey Arc, but with DisplayPort and proper multiple inputs. Yeah, that would be nice. Oh, someone asked about RTX 7000. I forgot in the housekeeping section. I got one more thing to show you real quick before we get to the next topic. Contact has been made. We have AMD in the house. This is the 7900X, not the X or the XT, not the XTX. Still want to get my hands on that for like full benchmarking, but to start covering the encoder and streaming and stuff. Finally, my first AMD graphics card sample ever. So, yes, I have been reached out to. I apparently had people that I knew that now work at AMD, which is pretty cool. The coolest part, though, when I had the conversation with them, is that they actually have a, like, video media streamer influencer kind of team now to focus on OBS and things like that. Whereas they pretty much didn't have that at all before. So I can't share too much details of the calls or anything like that, but this will allow me to start covering their encoder in depth, and there's been a lot of questions that rose from my review that I'm going to work through them on in terms of fixing the documentation, all of that. But the fact that they actually have people there working on this stuff means big progress for AMD, because they literally didn't exist before, which has been the whole problem and why I dumped on them, because they just couldn't keep up, because they literally they weren't trying, and now they are. So I'm very excited. I do want to correct one thing that I said repeatedly wrong over and over and over, which was the hardware. The encoding hardware in the card is not actually made by Xilinx or Xilinx or whatever. Everyone says it's pronounced Xilinx now, so I'm going to go with that. Which is a company AMD acquired that specializes in video encoding hardware and things like that. I was under the impression, and everyone seemed to agree with me on at the time, that they were leveraging that kind of hardware in the graphics card to do their AV1 encoding. And so since they had two different hardware registers for H.264 and 5 and AV1, I was thinking that the H.264 and 5 encoding part was handled on the Radeon side of things that was inherited from older RDNA cards, and that the AV1 was handled on this new Xilinx encoder ASIC or whatever that was integrated into the GPU. This was incorrect. Apparently they're just using like software optimizations and that kind of thing, like encoder profiles or something. I don't even have the exact answer yet. But they're only using like design ideas and software level stuff vaguely, you know, from Xilinx. They're not actually using Xilinx hardware here. It's still part of the normal RDNA hardware development process, which is kind of cool. So good to know. Doesn't really affect anything for you, the end user, but it was a factual inaccuracy that I wanted to correct because I don't like saying wrong stuff, and I was very specific in that and was incorrect. All right, finishing up with displays here, I just wanted to note that Sony actually doesn't have displays at CES. Sony has had TVs at CES, as far as I know, for like ever. Like they've had huge displays. When I was there, they had a huge display tunnel. Like they were always showing new displays. Like when I went, they were already showing, and this was in 2020, they were already showing like mini LED ideas and things like that. So it's fascinating that they're just not going to do it, that they didn't do it this year. I assume that means that they have a whole separate thing for TVs coming or something, or maybe they're just trying to get more ROI out of 2022's TVs. I don't really know. I don't know. It was just fascinating. LG, however, had a lot of stuff to show. All right, so LG had a huge thing. Obviously, I'm not there, so I don't know a ton. But they specifically announced a wireless 97-inch OLED that does 4K 120, of course, but it does it through a Zero Connect audio and video box that just wirelessly broadcasts it to the TV. Now, overall, this is just like a rich person flex. Like, this is going to be the $30,000 TV that rich people put in their home theaters and we never see again. In theory, as they learn from this and can, economics of scale and whatever, theoretically that tech could come to cheaper stuff, but it could be 10 years before it does, depending on how much it costs them now. I originally just memed on it. I was like, well, this is dumb. It's going to be terrible for gaming. It might be terrible for audio sync, because latency and whatever. But I having watched a lot of videos about home theater setups and seeing like Linus's adventures setting up his home theater and things like that, I could see the advantages of being able to have a box like in your entertainment center or up on the ceiling, like a projector almost, or something where all your stuff is routed to that is detached from your TV because your TV is built into this setup. And then cable management's easier. Adding in or removing components is a lot easier, which is a big deal as consoles and whatever upgrade. I could see the advantages. I don't like the trend to removing all forms of physical media, be it physical consoles and discs and players and whatever. But it sounds pretty neat. They also announced a flexible OLED, kind of like the Xeneon from Corsair, where you can adjust for 20 different levels of curvature. They also say you can resize it. I haven't gotten details on this yet, and everyone's at CES, so I can't exactly reach out and get details yet. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm thinking that they're just calling the size different based on the curve. If so, that's completely misleading and bull. So I'm not going to assume that's what it is yet, but that's the only idea I have, because you can't just, it's bendable. It's not stretchable. I got no ideas there. That one's a weird to me thing. I know everyone's making fun of the flexible OLEDs, but honestly, I think Linus described it best when he covered the Corsair Xeneon, in that it's not about the, like, if you want to, sure, but it's not really about the ability to just, like, flex it in and out all the time or whatever. It's about the ability to get it exactly where you want it, which is basically like a monitor stand. Like, you have your up and down, you have your tilt, you have your side to side or whatever. You need the ability to do all of those things because it allows you to get the exact thing for your setup, for your use case, for your distance from it, whatever. The ability to perfectly cater the curve for those reasons is also really cool. So I like that things are going this way from that aspect. I don't think, hey, you can bend it into game hardcore and stretch it back out to watch movies and back and forth. I don't think that's really the selling point. Then, of course, again, they announced their 240 hertz OLED with the 0.03 response time. Cool. They also announced NFT stuff in 2023. Garbage. Moving on. All right, so we're going to move on to some Nvidia talk here for a moment. I'm not going to cover too much of this because it's been talked to death, but in the streaming space, I was very excited. They have RTX Video Super Resolution, which is just AI upscaling for video coming to browsers. Unfortunately, it's only Chrome and Edge at the moment, which sucks. I would love to see it come to Firefox. I also really want them to get someone to make plugins for media players like VLC and MPV, as well as for video editors like Resolve. I really, really want them to do this. My biggest problem here is that this demo is bullshit. That is not 1080p video upscaled. That's either a much lower resolution video. I'm talking about on the left, not on the right. It's either a much lower resolution, or they just applied a blur filter to it, or deliberately chose the worst possible way to upscale 1080p on purpose, because it's just not what it looks like. As someone who has done many times and regularly recommends for people to upscale their 1080p footage to 4K for YouTube uploads and things like that. It's not what it looks like. So I hate that they're playing this smoke and mirrors game with it, because it's bull. I'd rather them show like it being blocky and it helping with the deblocking, because the real advantage here for this would be Twitch streams. But the feature itself, despite being marketed in a terrible way, is actually really cool and useful. So can't wait for it to roll out. I'm excited for it. I just wish they didn't resort to this to market it. Maybe it's the only way they could illustrate it, because it's harder to illustrate otherwise. But then, be honest, I don't know. They announced a couple other features. They got laptops. Nvidia Canvas, the AI drawing thing, which I still haven't played with a ton, but is really freaking cool. It's one of the more exciting AI things for me. It now goes 360, where you can do full environment maps for 3D scenes. That is insane. So you can do like HDRIs as well as environment maps. That is freaking bonkers. I can't wait to see like Corridor Crew get a hold of it and things like that. And then lastly, they announced the broadcast update that adds the eye contact, as well as a bokeh blur kind of effect to the background blurring, which is kind of cool. Gets them a little more accurate. The eye contact thing, honestly, in this demo, it doesn't look that bad. Like, I think it's interesting that they chose Gerardo, which is a buddy of mine, but they chose him to present this, both because he has glasses. So it's a demo showing that it works with glasses, which is cool. Doing things with glasses on video is very difficult. As even my current lighting just glares off of glasses. So that sucks. But it shows that it works with glasses, but also the glasses magnify the eyes a little bit, which both distorts the, like, it would distort this effect if it wasn't done well, and that doesn't really happen here. But it also helps highlight like how fake it is. It's like you can see it if you slow it down and look, like punch in and look really, really closely. You can see the eyes wiggle ever so slightly as they try to map to where they're supposed to be. But otherwise, it's very convincing. I think for a lot of use cases, this is dumb. Like, I think the idea that we need to maintain eye contact and voice calls, especially when we're doing a million other things and whatever, is insane. Like, I don't like that trend. I do like the trend that Nvidia is going with to... Like, it's both good and bad, because what Nvidia is, like, what most of this technology is being actually inspired from was during the pandemic, from all the video conferencing needs everyone has. And Nvidia saw this pipeline where they could reduce the need for, ice filter, no! What they saw a need for was a pipeline that reduced the data needed to be sent for video conferencing, because everyone was video calling in 2020 and everyone has bad internet, especially in other regions, and they wanted a way to improve that. And so they have this feature. They had another feature they were demoing a year or two ago where it would just like AI interpolate your movement on camera to help with compression, as well as a few others. And all of this is kind of building out a pipeline so that you only send like a little bit of data for your end of the video call, and then it effectively uses, effectively what this is doing is taking in what would be like the motion vectors for DLSS, but from your video, it takes those cues and then recreates that video on the other end for that person without needing to send a full high quality video stream. And that concept is really cool, if not creepy to some. It's really cool. It's just uses outside of video conferencing are harder to sell. I think the eye contact will help for some streamers. I think they will like it. I'm sure it will look super cursed the more you turn your head and like try to break it. But for me, like if I do videos at the computer now, I no longer have my teleprompter set up, and I would love to not, like, it's very hard to go back and forth to not make it obvious that I'm reading. So like it might be useful there. I might try it out. The only problem again comes in, it's in NVIDIA broadcast, which means real-time video only. That is the problem with a lot of these features, including their background removal. I need someone to make plugins for DaVinci Resolve and Premiere and stuff where you can do it in post. Especially because it has a little more time to think about it. It could do a better job, but it doesn't need to do a better job. I just need to be able to apply it to a video that already exists without playing the video in OBS and re-encoding it, because that's just garbage. Put on eye contact and play. Yeah, exactly. There are going to be a ton of people who just leave this on for their streams, and like, they're going to be like forehead down here and their eyes are going to be angled up here, and it's going to look really creepy. And a lot of those people are going to find it really funny and leave it on. But that's obviously not what it's meant for. And then obviously last in NVIDIA, the 4070 Ti. I don't need to acknowledge it. No, none of us do. AMD on the other hand AMD, on the other hand, NVIDIA Broadcast, so basically no one will use it. Lots of people use NVIDIA Broadcast, and that means they can implement it in OBS directly, as they have been with all the NVIDIA Broadcast features through the SDK. So it'll come to OBS eventually, most likely. AMD, on the other hand, finally announced 3D cache versions of Ryzen 7000 CPUs. So this is very exciting because these will be the heavy hitters. As we have discovered, it was worth it for a lot of people to just go with, including people I know personally, to just go with the 5800X 3D instead of 7000 series, because the 3D performs so much better, even though you lose the upgradability, because realistically, by the time you upgrade, you may not have it off of this. Anyway, this kind of breaks that rule. So they're probably going to be really expensive. We'll see when they come out, but exciting stuff because these should perform pretty wildly. I still don't have my hands on Ryzen 7000. I have a motherboard for it now, but I still can't really, like, use it. So I don't have the chips. They also announced, whoa, my tabs. AMD also announced RDNA 3 and Zen 4 hardware coming to laptops, which is exciting. Obviously, the next step there. All right, that moves on from all of the big categories of topics. So we covered streaming gear, we covered displays, we covered Nvidia and AMD. Now we just got a miscellany of some other topics I wanted to share with you all, like Tumblr is launching a live streaming feature. Tumblr Live is launching for iOS and Android. This is just Tumblr trying to capitalize on the massive influx of users that they saw after Twitter's big dumpster fire that's still burning. I think it's kind of dumb because Tumblr isn't a video platform, but every platform now is introducing this weird mobile live stream thing. Even freaking Pinterest has it. Pinterest, the stumbling upon mood boardy kind of tool. Like every other thing now, it's like a Reddit stream where it's like, you want to watch this live stream? It's like, that's not what I'm here for. No. So it's interesting. It'll be an easy way to get a ton of viewers in the short term by jumping on it early if you're one of those people, because that's what happened with Reddit and TikTok Live. But I don't think this makes sense for a blogging platform. Snap Camera is shutting down. Snapchat had a program you could use on your computer to apply snap lenses and things like that to your webcams. I had it on the list for years to make a video on it and just never got around to it. But it's now going away, unfortunately. I don't know why. It's kind of dumb. And I hate that the program is breaking because they're shutting down the servers for it. Because realistically, if you had it installed, you'd get to keep using it. But since it runs everything through the cloud for some reason, once they just turn it off, you won't be able to use it anymore. Like literally, you won't be able to use it even if you have it installed as of January 25th. I hate modern software. Speaking of hating modern software, Epic Games has removed Unreal and Unreal Tournament from Steam and GOG, despite the fact that you don't need them to host servers to play the games. There's zero reason for this. Everyone's already talked about this to death. This is kind of old news, but I just wanted to come on and say, like, this is bullshit. There's no reason for this, especially for a game that, again, is community supported. Epic doesn't need to host servers for it. You don't need Epic servers to connect to matches. There's no reason to take the games away. It does not cost them anything to host it. They're freaking Epic. Intel, there has been confirmed that the upcoming CPU architecture, which I guess would be 14th gen Meteor Lake, will support AV1 encoding, which is very cool. It will have similar encoding specs to the ARC GPUs, which is very exciting. You'll be able to have it on the iGPU. The iGPU encoding doesn't always perform as well as you might expect, especially compared to like iGPU encoding doesn't always perform as amazing as like ARC does, you know, by comparison. So yeah, it's a low power AV1 encode. So you might not be able to do all the same stuff, but it is very cool that it's there and we'll continue to bring it to more and more people, which is what's exciting. I'm very excited for this. I can't wait to get my hands on the CPUs. I'm still waiting to test 13th gen because I'm still waiting on a freaking motherboard. I still have the chips. Microsoft is implementing ChatGPT with Bing Search. There's already been a few browser extensions to basically have ChatGPT, the AI chatbot that is honestly incredible, basically have it interact with your Google searches to like give you better results and stuff. Well, apparently Microsoft is hoping to launch a feature before the end of March to integrate ChatGPT entirely with Bing, which of course will also mean a bunch more money going to OpenAI, which is pretty cool. But it is very fascinating because honestly, even for myself, I have found ChatGPT repeatedly to be a lot more useful than just Googling certain things because, and not just Google, like any search engine, because search engines get so crowded and clogged up with just like junk or like specific kinds of coverage. Like if you Google one thing and there's a bunch of news about something, you'll have a harder time finding the real information, whereas a chatbot sorts through it a little bit better. So having it interact with the search to filter it and help you find the answer you're looking for, which means that it would have access to that versus being limited to just the data it's trained on, is very, 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 very exciting. Razer at CES also announced a $400 soundbar that also has a camera on it. It's an always-on camera. It doesn't give you the option to turn it off, which is unfortunate. But it's an infrared camera to, I guess, scan your room and tweak the virtual surround sound better. Actually, no, it's not about scanning your room. It's about tracking your head for it. That's even worse. That's so creepy. No, no. Just no. That's all I have to say. Just no. Handbrake gets ARC AV1 support. This is just catching it up with the nightly builds that I covered during my ARC coverage and things like that. It still doesn't support Nvidia or AMD AV1 encoding just yet, but it is a public release. So if you have the normal version installed, the updater will give it to you. Exciting stuff. You can always get questions of how do I actually encode AV1? This is one way you can if you have ARC right now. So very exciting there. Last couple stories here. MSI debuted at CES a new PCIe 5.0 SSD with a Phison controller that can do 12 gigabytes per second in reads, 10 gigabytes per second in writes. This is amazing. Now, I am at a weird point with NVMe drives. We keep getting faster and faster controllers using faster and faster buses, but they keep densely packing the NAND. Like if you have a QLC drive, sure, the first 500 gigs or so will be blazing fast, but the rest of it will be really slow. And that sucks. And then it doesn't matter if you're on 5.0 or 4.0 or 3.0 or if you have the latest and greatest, because they slow down. And I don't know what the solution is because it seems to be a necessity and it's harder and harder to find SLC or TLC drives. But it's harder to get excited about these fast drives, even though I have actual use cases for it and would love to use them. Because I know by the time I actually load them up with data that I need to load onto them, they're gonna slow down. So, exciting, but also, please solve that problem. But exciting stuff that they're debuting it. Those speeds are just freaking insane. 11,814 write on that test, 12,342 read on that test. Just insane. Like, that is mind-blowing. Like, we're gonna have drives catch up to RAM at some point, which is gonna be weird. Like, I'm seeing a future where the DIMM.2 NVMe drive slots that ASUS uses in some of their boards is literally going to actually be just like supplemental RAM. Like, it'll be backup RAM because it will be maybe a hair slower or like low, higher latency. Like, I see a future where we'll be able to use that DIMM.2 slot and just throw in like 2 to 4 terabytes of RAM. That would be insane. Lenovo YogaBook 9i. What the hell is this? I just wanted to ask. What is this? It is a transformer laptop that has dual OLED screens and it's a tablet, but it has no trackpad. So this image here is kind of cool in that you could have the laptop screen and then the one at the bottom and you draw on the one on the bottom. I like that. I don't understand the transformation process. I don't like virtual touch keyboards. I hate that. And then you have, oh, that's even a wireless keyboard that you just put on. I don't like that. And then I don't understand this view. So what it actually is just a dual screen like tablet and then a wireless keyboard and stylus. This is just weird to me. It's cool. I'm glad they're trying stuff. It's a Nintendo DS, but with a keyboard. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. They did, however, start announcing that they're using AI chips in their gaming laptops, to tune performance. This is both cool because it should allow you to unlock more performance specific to your laptop. I'm also a little confused why you need an AI chip for this. Like, especially since they don't sell, like, realistically that many of any given laptop. I genuinely wonder if the R&D of building an AI chip, the software for it, the tuning for it, testing it, all of that, Windows DS. I genuinely wonder if all of that R&D is actually worth it for that performance tuning versus just manually tuning laptops as they come off the factory line, or just implementing some sort of logic for it. Because realistically, you don't need AI to tune laptops. Like, it should be pretty straightforward logic of, like, I mean, that's how the current overclocking tools work. Crank it up as it gets too hot or runs out of power or whatever, tone it down, find the middle ground. I don't feel like AI can do anything more than that. And maybe this is one of those, it's not real AI, they're just calling it that or whatever. Or maybe they got some sort of subsidy or investment to use AI versus manually tuning. But I have to imagine it would be worth it far more to just manually tune laptops and implement that kind of basic overclocking logic than to use AI. I don't know. Cooler Master introduced a bunch of new cases at CES, and I remember getting the email for it and not understanding what it is. They introduced cases that are a shark and a shoe. It looks like Sonic's shoe. Like, that looks like a Sonic shoe. So, like, build the rest of Sonic and... I don't know. They're weird. I love seeing unique cases, though. Like, it's weird, but, like, please, more unique showpiece cases. I love it. ASUS also announced new laptops, including one that does 3D with OLED. So it's an OLED monitor at 3.2K resolution, or pixel dimensions. But it also has a spatial vision feature that gives you 3D without glasses. Kind of like the 3DS, I guess. I can't believe someone's still working on 3D. But it's kind of cool. Maybe this is how 3D is going to finally come back. I don't know. More 16:10 though, which is very exciting. 16:10 OLED at 120 hertz. Like, it's checking a lot of boxes for me. I'd love to give it a try. I don't understand the pop-up keyboard thing. That looks really uncomfortable, honestly. But otherwise, like, yeah, wait a minute. That looks really uncomfortable to type on. But otherwise, I would love to give this a try. A real Windows 3DS. Yeah, we got the Windows 2DS and now the Windows 3. Oh no. Oh no. All right. That's all the normal topics I had for y'all today. That was it. I didn't expect Windows DS to be how we ended it, but yeah. Hey all, I remember when I grabbed 3 970 Pro NVMe SSDs, a Gen 3 Hyper M.2 card, ROG Strix board, and a by 8 slot, managed to get sequentially, of course, 10K reads and writes back in 2018. Yeah, but that was a RAID 0. Doing that on a singular drive is much more impressive. I could get like 500 megabytes per second on a RAID 0 of hard drives. That doesn't mean a singular hard drive could do that. Waiting on my 8 terabyte hard drive to come in the mail. Not too long after 2022, upgrading my streaming rig. Nice. All right. Anyway, my voice is running out. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I am so glad we were able to stream again. Lots of cool stuff coming at CES. I would love to hear what your favorite stuff is in chat or in the comments. Reminders, people were asking again. I'm using the King B2 microphone right now. Still working on my review of it. Sounds pretty good. AMD AV1 coverage coming now that I have a card in hand. Just lots of holiday stuff to recover from. Lots of things to wrap up. I do need to produce episode 3 of Print Screen this week. Or next week, I guess. All that good stuff. We'll have more streams soon. But yeah, appreciate you hanging out with me. We should have Will back on next episode. He was a little busy this week. Also, you know, getting ready, coming back from holiday breaks and all of that. And yeah. You came late? Well, then you can always just be kind, rewind, and finish the episode. Hey! Bye!